Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience.
Uh-huh.
One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF Podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF Podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
Hey, happy Friday.
Yay! Friday for a long weekend.
Yeah.
And we are at episode 25.
Wow.
Quarter of a century. Almost, we're 25% of the way to 100.
Oh,
if I did my math correctly.
Yeah, if you did your math correctly.
I've never been a real good math guy, but
I think
no,
you're right.
pretty crazy. 25 has gone by really, really quick.
It has. And it's
Pretty
funny
well.
because we were talking about doing this and we're like, do we have enough content to do an episode every single week?
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to do like every other week, once a month. We were looking at it and now we're every week. And yeah, we have a long list of people. And today, we're doing a little bit different because we had a guest lined up and had to reschedule. So,
But we've had one here that kind of we're going to spin off of our listener questions because we've had, this comes up a lot, and just you're a little hypersensitive to it because it's come up a few times for you personally, because, as most everybody knows, you own a drafting company as well, Innovative Draft and Design. We had our friend Robert Kloeb on here the other day, and he basically, we obviously work with him and a great amount of stuff, and that guy's like the guru for that and stuff. But we are a small fish in his pond that we pick up some of his scraps and do some of that. So really, really taken off as a specialized ICF drafting company, and you yourself have kind of dove in with our drafters now to become one of the drafters.
Yeah. So I've been drawing my own plans for remodels for 20 years.
Yeah, but you haven't been a drafter.
I haven't been a drafter.
You're getting serious about it now. Like you're actually doing it as a business and training yourself and all that. So you're really getting into it.
Yeah. I think the big difference is using the program to draw it versus, hand drawing. Like I used to hand draw all my remodels, as built and what I was going to do. And so now using the system to draw it is a little bit different. But yeah, we do a lot of, we do custom plans. We have a whole library of stock plans on our website that we can customize as well. And then we do a lot of stick to ICF conversions. And we've gotten a slew of those over the last 3-4 weeks. And some of them, yes, are conversions. Some of them technically are not conversions. And so we have to do a lot of educating with our clients to, what is truly a conversion and what's a custom plan.
Thus, the topic for today's podcast is going to be specifically conversions, converting your plan from a stick frame to an ICF, or even just from your idea to an ICF. I mean, that's, it comes up a lot. It's a question that has been coming through the listener questions quite a bit. We get a lot of DMs about it. I've seen it a lot on the Facebook groups and stuff, people asking about it and kind of the pitfall. I think we've touched on this a little bit in like the DIY pitfalls, and we touched on, it's been touched on Robert's episode. And so, we've kind of touched on it, but we just wanted to do a little more of a deep dive into it. And, specifically because it's kind of a misunderstanding. And so we kind of want to help educate people. And then too, I know there's some other drafting companies out there that are doing the same thing and kind of feel the same pain. And so maybe we can help everybody out here a little bit, but kind of asking people like, what is, when someone walks in, first of all, let's even stop and just say, when they walk in and they say, yeah, I've got a plan, and it's just a drawing that they've come up with.
A hand drawing on graph paper that they've done.
Yes.
So yeah, we have a lot of clients that do that.
Conversion?
No,
it's not.
It's not a conversion.
They think they need a conversion to convert it from their plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing that will help everybody is if we're doing a conversion from a stick frame plan to ICF, your stick frame plans that you bring us to convert are ready to go to permitting.
Correct. That's the conversion. You're converting an existing set of plans drawn by a professional that have been stamped,
yes,
are engineered, and you are just changing some of the measurements and changing the drawings to show in detail the ICF.
Yes.
That's a conversion.
That's a conversion. When you come in with something drawn on a napkin or graph paper, even if it's to scale, that's not a set of plans that can typically go and get permitting for.
Right.
Now, if your hand drawings are stamped, which we actually did have a set of hand drawings that were stamped for, like somebody old school had drawn them, and we can convert that. But they were hand drawings ready to go to the building department, already engineered, already ready to go.
Right. And so I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand is it's something that has the dimensions and everything are figured out. Yes. We're just making a few changes to those numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that's like I said, people are pretty good about it, but I think they get, they come in, oh yeah, I just need this converted. So it's going to be,
it's gonna
less
be
money, right? Yeah. You're going to save money. You're not going to save money. Just kind of like in this, another subject in this, but like people buying what we call canned plans, something online. It's probably the biggest mistake I've seen over the last 20 years. People go online and they just go to a website, and I'm not going to name any, but there's all kinds of big websites on the interwebs that will sell you plans, and you think you're getting a set of plans, and you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on set of plans that you think are ready to roll. They are not ready to roll in most cases.
Yeah, we actually, yesterday, day before, we had a builder bring a client in that purchased a set of plans online for a barn dominium. Got the plans, thought they were, they paid a lot of money for these plans online. Didn't include a site plan. It had some engineering on it, but not for the state of Idaho. No. It was for somewhere else. And the codes that were referenced were like 2008.
Right. Everything's past that now.
Everything's way past that. So they could not submit them to the building department. So,
and I'll even say I'm just going to keep beating up on these plan websites, but I'll take it back to like my pre-ICF days. Horrible. Like I used to do material takeoffs for a lumberyard, for a couple lumberyards actually, and my dad and I would that's what we did. That was our side hustle at night. Is we would come home and after dinner, he'd be his house, I'd be my house. We'd split up the plans and we would do material takeoffs for lumberyards. So pre-ICF days for me. And we got to a point where we would just reject plans when they came in and they were not a locally drawn plan. It was just, we'd just say no. We'd send them back to the lumberyard and say, hey, tell your customer that we're not going to do the takeoff on this because it wasn't accurate. So unfortunately, and I don't know why people do this. Like even, recently we've talked to builders who are like, I told them not to buy this and they bought it. And now they're upset that they're paying a second time for a set of plans that will actually go to permitting and be able to be done.
Yeah, because to be able to take that set and make it to where they can take it through permitting, we have to start from scratch. We got to draw the whole thing.
Right.
So it doesn't save us.
You're not helping us at all.
No, you're not saving any time. They tried to go back to the website that they bought them from. And if you read the fine print,
you're sued. They're usually drawn in, and here's the problem that I'm stereotyping now, but a lot of these are drawn overseas. They're drawn.
Well, these are just really old plans that somebody's selling online.
Or they're drawn across the country from where you live, even if you're lucky. Most cases, though, most of this stuff is outsourced to India. China, wherever. It's coming from overseas. They've got somebody that's drawing these that doesn't know anything about the local municipalities or the building codes. They're going completely off something in a computer program that probably isn't accurate, or like you said, is back from 2008, and we're on to codes. Like everybody's.
18, 20.
Yeah, depending on your area, but you're 2018, 2020 codes. So, just if there's anything anyone hears, don't buy the online.
No.
Don't buy them.
And a lot of times people think that they're helping us and they're going to save money by buying these plans online. And especially when you're looking at going to ICF, don't buy them online. Like, not a stick frame plan. Don't buy off these big websites that just all they do is sell canned plans.
Right. We sell plans online, we should clarify. Buy them from us. No, but any reputable. Make sure you're dealing with a company that is going to make it specific to your area.
Yeah.
You can't just buy something, go to a different part of the country, and roll those plans out, and it's going to work every time.
No, and the one thing on our website, so we're working on upgrading our what do you call it? Where you can buy them online. E-commerce page to where, we customize our plans. We have stock plans, but yes, we've drawn them and we provide them at a discounted rate because we've done them multiple times for different block companies. So there will be like a drop-down menu for, like the 5 main companies that we've drawn the houses in. So they're specialized to those ICF blocks. So you're not saving money by purchasing a set of stock plans from one of the canned websites for stick and converting them. Just save your money and talk to an ICF draftsman first before you go and spend your money on that.
Right. To that point, I mean, I think conversions, the usefulness of a conversion versus just having plans drawn is if you legitimately just own a set of plans that you already paid for and you don't have the option. Otherwise, you're best to just go meet with a draftsman, and sit down with them and talk about how to draw this plan. It's not a whole lot more to just do your own custom plans than trying to. So, I mean, I don't even know, you know all the numbers, but throwing numbers out there, but like you say, someone's going to spend on $15,000 on a set of plans or something. So let's say you're going to spend $15,000 on a set of plans to have somebody draw them from scratch, or you go and you spend $10,000 because you think you're saving, or $5,000 on a set of plans online that don't work. Then you got to pay for the local engineering on top of that. Then you got to pay for it to be converted. Well, now you're just paid $20,000 for a set of plans that if you would have just paid the $15,000 up front, you could have had a custom set done exactly how you wanted it, instead of making a lot more work for everybody. And it's no different. I mean, everybody, I don't care what job you're in. Think about it like if you had to go in and go on top of somebody else's work and try to fix it. Mm-hmm. It's way easier for you to just do the job than say, okay, can you come in here and this guy did half the job. Can you go ahead and fix what he did and then do your job? Well, it's going to cost you more money. So it's, that's a huge part of it. And something too, we've talked about before, but just to touch on again, the difference between architect and draftsman, and people want to always say architect. Everybody that draws plans is not an architect.
Correct.
It's majority of the world. 85% of the plans drawn in the United States are drawn by draftsmen, not architects. Don't get hung up on the architect thing. A lot of people will, even present themselves as architects. They're, if they're not, a licensed architect is way more rare than a draftsman. I mean, you're talking about like I said, 15% versus 85%.
In residential, yes.
In residential, yeah. Commercial, obviously, the architect's saying you do not, in most every jurisdiction, there are some different small jurisdictions we've run into before where they like city ordinances that have required an architect, licensed architect. But the stamp, when people talk about an architect stamp, it's not an architect stamp. It's a engineering stamp that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so most plans can be drawn by a draftsman and stamped by an engineer.
Correct.
So don't get hung up on that. I just want to be clear about that. Some people go, oh, that guy's not an architect. Well, most people aren't an architect, honestly.
And it's important to note too that even in those jurisdictions, where full engineering is required, it's required whether you use a draftsman or an architect.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But there are some different designations for drafters and for people. There's this certified building designer. I can't remember the exact verbiage of it, but we're going through that right now and taking those tests to get that designation, and that does come with a stamp.
Right.
And there is continuing education. There is that,
but it's not. Don't get it confused with the engineer stamp.
Correct.
It's a stamp just saying that you have that certification.
Yes, that that you've.
Or an architect has gone to college to be an architect, right? Like you're vetting their skills.
Yes.
But in most jurisdictions, 98% of the jurisdictions in the United States, it's not required to be an architect to draw a set of plans. It is required in most every organization, or every place you build. There will be an engineer stamp will be required
for most. Yes, there's a few
and realistically,
there's
some. Yeah, I mean, you can go to Wyoming and they won't need it, but you can also take something drawn on a napkin and put an engineer stamp on it. In some places, it'll pass. That's how important the engineer stamp is versus an architect stamp or whatever. So, that one's one that always gets me because I get so many people and they're like, "Yeah, my architect said this, my architect said that," and then I get the set of plans to do a takeoff on it, and it's just a draftsman. It's a drafting company, which most contractors, putting my contractor hat on, I would rather draw a set of plans from a draftsman than an architect. And all my architects listening, I love you guys. You're artists. You're so intelligent. You're great. You do amazing work. Your plans should be in a frame on the wall because they're beautiful, but boy, sometimes they're not the best to build off of. And so draftsmen tend to keep it pretty simple. It seems to be a little cleaner plans, a little more less artistic stuff involved with it. It's a little more designed to the build side. I mean, not saying that, the finished result's good, but like they just seem to be cleaner plans to read off of. I mean, that's just my own personal opinion and experience. I've got some amazing architects I know that do great work and they're great, but I mean, when you really just set them down next to like a draftsman's plan and an architect's plan, you can definitely see which is which. And it's just really makes your eyes cross sometimes when you see all the stuff they love to put on there. They love details. They love numbers. They love to put a lot of stuff on there, and it gets really messy sometimes. But anyways, that being said, that's you guys do. You're taking all these plans and they're coming into you and they have the set that they either purchased online or they maybe were looking at building. A lot of people really were looking at building with stick, and then they're doing their research and over time and they're like, I really love my plan, but I really want to build with ICF. Right. Can we do this? I mean, we have a client up in Washington right now that we're designing a custom plan. We're like almost done with it. And, they met with somebody and they said, well, with all the windows that you want in this one area, ICF doesn't make sense. Well, ICF does make sense. We just won't do it around those specific windows. We won't put 6 inches of concrete in between 20-foot tall walls of windows. You can, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. So it's just looking at it that way. So that's how a lot of our clients come in. And I think along the lines too of conversions, what we're doing is we're looking at your set of plans. We're only changing your exterior building materials and possibly, and your footings. So we're either going to grow it to account for the ICF walls, or we're going to maintain your exterior measurements. If you're tight on your lot, we're going to maintain that, and we're going to have to make some adjustments on the inside to make up for that extra space. So, we need to know that from the beginning when we meet with the client, and it's one of the first things on our questionnaire as we're going through and meeting with people when we're doing a conversion is, okay, are we maintaining interior measurements or are we maintaining exterior dimensions? What are we doing? Because we need to know before we start drawing it what we're doing so that we can make those adjustments. Yeah, and then a lot of these subdivisions now,
you're so
inches
tight.
make a difference. It's crazy. So we got to make sure that that's what it is. So I mean,
well, in inches, and then some of them measure off of the footing. The footing is to the setback, not the wall.
Right.
And some of them, like here in McCall, it's your overhang. That's where they measure your setback from, is your overhang, not your wall. So it's understanding what jurisdiction you're working in, what your setbacks are, and what we can do. And then I like to, when we're doing conversions, we add the supplemental pages for the ICF for those exterior walls and for those dimensions. We will note if we're growing, we're maintaining interior dimensions, we'll note the new changes like for where the windows are going to be, because all of that's going to move over just slightly. And then we'll give a supplemental couple of pages for the ICF stack itself and pour.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you talk about, like supplemental pages and stuff like that, the engineering side of that too is what we call a calc and spec. sometimes is available. So sometimes people go, oh, God, I had this whole thing engineered already. It's done in stick frame. Usually we can go back to those engineers or possibly a more of an ICF friendly engineer. And what they'll do is they'll do a discounted rate. They're not doing the full engineering for everything because they're not having to redo roof or anything like that. But they'll basically do an attachment that you'll attach to the plans, basically an 8x11 sheet that says the rebar schedule, the concrete schedule, everything, what's going to be in there, window lintels, anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit less than having the engineering completely redone. They can do something that's just an attachment to that.
Yeah. So what we've done is on those instances, we've gone back to the engineer that engineered the stick frame plan to see if they're comfortable with ICF engineering, see if they understand that. A couple times they were like, no, we don't do that part. Do you have an engineer that does this? And so we'll actually send over the stick frame plans with their engineering along with our ICF pages to our engineer. The engineers end up talking, and then our engineer just stamps those pages that we're adding in as the supplemental page. And we put everything on there, all the engineers' red lines, lentil schedules, rebar schedule, all the stuff that they're requiring. And then they stamp that. And then it ends up going back to the other engineer and the engineer of record that did all the rest of the plans. And then they stamp it as well.
Well, and I think a lot of it, what you're trying to get around is it's basically so the inspector can see what he's supposed to be looking at. I mean, that's how you kind of got to look at it. Like realistically on the job site, you really care what the engineer, or what the inspector needs to know to pass you and let you keep moving forward, right?
Yes.
So some people lose sight of that a little bit. They're like, well, okay, this is what they want. Who cares? No, we need to have something that diagrams this out and shows it to them, because the smoother you can make that understanding with those guys, the better. That's huge. And for all of us in the industry, if you're not just a one and done or a DIY guy that's just coming in to do one project, if you're listening to this podcast and we're talking to distributors and installers and stuff like that, it's a great opportunity to educate every chance you get to be smooth and educate the inspectors on the ICF process and what they're looking at. Take that little bit of extra time and show them what you're doing, because the next time is amazing. We just worked in a very small jurisdiction. We did a pour this last week. Inspectors get to know us to a point, they come up to the job and they're like, oh, I'm glad it's you guys. Like, it's like, okay, I know this is going to be cool. Yeah, let's talk about they're actually excited to tour the job site, to look at it. They're like, oh yeah, now I know, because you showed them last time what they're looking at. Sometimes they don't know this. ICF's new to a lot of people still. And so it's a great time to do that. Just like with the engineers, if you have an engineer of record that is, I wouldn't say not comfortable, just hasn't done a bunch of ICF, and you get this opportunity to say, hey, we're converting this. Would you like to learn a little bit about this? If you're a homeowner if you're the plan owner, I should say, on this, or the builder, reach out to your ICF rep and have them say, hey, I got this engineer. We're going to have him redo this. Maybe you should reach out to him and, help him with the education side of it. Because we're always trying to win more people over into the industry to make sure that everybody understands how smooth it is and it's not a big deal. More engineers we get on, the better it's going to be for all of us. The more, draftsmen and architects we get on, the better it is for us. So more inspectors we get on, the better it is for us. So anytime you're doing this, converting something and you get to teach somebody something different, make sure to take that time.
Yeah. And what we found too is, by bringing the two engineers together, they kind of they'll end up talking and kind of nerding out over the different things that that they do, but then it expands their network. So then when the engineer that doesn't do ICF engineering, they see something that comes up and they're like, oh, I worked with so-and-so, and they're licensed here. They can do it. They may outsource it to them, and just, increasing their network and working together.
Yeah, and it is funny. They kind of speak the same love language when you get two engineers together, because I sit in here and it's like listening to aliens talk sometimes when I'm hearing it. But it is great, because sometimes they'll, the biggest problem we run into is over engineering. So when we're looking at that as people, usually it's people going, engineer, and I get it. Like if you didn't understand it, we'll just slam more rebar in there, right?
Yeah, because I guess they're not on the job. They don't understand really what that is. And sometimes you really do need that much rebar in there.
Sometimes, but most times not. I would say. And unfortunately, that's the real world of it. It's usually way overkill over what we have seen in the past. But sometimes like our engineers that we work with are great, and that's why we take them to lunch and we educate them on stuff like, hey, this is the price difference between number 4 and number 5 bar. This is the price difference if you double the rebar you're going to add to the customer. Because the thing is they, love these guys. They're sitting there pumping out some great stuff for us, but they never see the pricing on rebar. They never see the pricing on concrete. They never see so like they're not, they have no real recollection of, or understanding of what one swipe of their keyboard can do to the price of the, or to the budget. Right. So what we do is we go
even to the concrete pour, not even like, budget is one thing, but putting all of that in there. How do you get concrete to flow around that?
Yeah, you got rocks and concrete that we got to get, rocks and cement to get around all these web, all the stuff that you're throwing into this wall. So just teaching them that understanding is a big deal, and that's something that is helpful too.
And your drafting company, whether you use us or you use somebody else or you use an architect, they have relationships with those engineers, and they work with them for a reason. We've got a wide range of engineers that we use all across the country because we draw plans all across
and
the
always
country.
Looking for more.
We're always looking for more, and
always.
And those ones that are interested in ICF, they're proactive. We do get emails from them. So if you're an engineer and you're listening to this, reach out. We're looking for more engineers across the country so we can keep our plans moving quickly. For our clients.
Luckily, due to the success of this podcast, we're becoming a little bit of a resource for people for all this stuff. So reach out to us. I am keeping all the contacts and everything in folders and marking them because I am getting people reaching out. Hey, I'm in, Florida and I need an engineer down here. So we're happy to network with people and make this podcast kind of a networking opportunity for everybody as well. So please reach out to us. Send us, any of your information at info@buildwithicf.com. Reach out through our socials, whatever. But we're always looking for new engineers and draftsmen and everything. We got plenty of business for everybody. So this is, we've talked about this we're friends with several other drafters that do the same thing. And there's plenty of work for everybody around. So reach out to us. Finally
became spring in Idaho and I guess we still got snow a couple days ago here, but it's not on the ground. It just melted overnight. But it's like spring has sprung and everybody's ready to get plans going. And it's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden it was crazy. And so it's a good crazy though.
No. And I think, anyways, kind of in conclusion or wrapping it up with the conversion thing. The big thing is that we were getting across today is just know what a conversion is, know what a new set of plans is, and understand that before you go meet with your drafter as far as what you're needing them to do. But and just if anything, because like I said, this has just happened so much and it seems like it's happening more recently, is be just very, very, very cautious about where you're purchasing your plans. Do some research. Are they actually an active local? Can you call and talk to the person that drew the plans?
Can you reach back out to them when, we have a DIY client that some stuff got put in the wrong place by the framers framing interior stuff, and it changes things. So can you go back to that drafter and say, we ran into this while framing, they did this wrong. Can you help us make the adjustments to the plans?
They moved the stairs by 2 feet and now you have to redesign some things, for the second story. But
it can be done. So make sure that you've got that contact and that relationship with them.
Yeah. And just, as simple as, we do site visits. We do, there's certain things where you may want that person to be physically involved in your area. So it is good to always try to do as much business with you can, with local that you could, that could possibly make it to your website or to your job site, not website. But we also, but again, we do stuff all over the country, but
we have flown all over the country.
But we fly, we'll fly to a job and we'll walk your job, and we'll do that as part of the process of hiring us to do your plans. Is we will do site visits and stuff like that. So just making sure that that's it. Unfortunately, there's just so much out there that looks like it's legit and local, and it's not. And know who's drawing the plans, know who you're talking to. Don't think you're going to go spend $5,000 on a set of plans that normally is going to cost you $15,000. It's anything in life. If someone comes up to you and tries to sell you a Mercedes for $8,000 and, it's probably not a real Mercedes, or it's probably not good. Like just buyer beware. And I think that's part of this episode is like, hey, be cautious of what you're buying and work with a drafting company, preferably that for a fact you can work through the whole process with them. So knowing what a conversion is, I think we went over that, got that through, but also just knowing not to purchase plans thinking that you're going to get them online cheaper. That's usually not how it works out.
Can set. So like I said, we do have some of our stock plans. They are ICF. It does say on our website which ones are available in ICF and stick, because we do both. We specialize in ICF, and that's the majority of our business, but we do have some that are just in stick frame. So we have all those on the website. And then, like I said, we're updating so that you can actually select your block, because it does change some of the location if you're trying to make sure that you're utilizing the block to the best, dimensions possible. We have some blocks that the corners are different measurements. So you can select from a drop-down menu which block you're going to be using.
Yeah, that's ideal, because if you really want to save some money and cut back on how much waste you have, draw the plans around the actual block that you're using. So super important. But
if you don't care, then that's fine. We can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. We're limited only by your imagination and your checkbook.
As always.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's good for this episode.
That's good. Yes. I'm so glad to put that out there, because, I see it all over the Facebook groups about conversions, and we've just been going through it these past few weeks. So
people just buying the plans and you see it all the time.
I feel bad because then you're like, oh, you just spent so much money on that, but it's going to take me the same amount of time.
Yeah. Sorry. So, well, thank you guys. Everybody, same as usual, get hold of us you can email us at info@buildwithicf.com. You can go to our socials at buildwithicf.
You can find everything on the drafting company on buildwithicf.com. The drafting company is on there. So
yeah, we got it all there. So if you have any questions, please shout us out. Let us know. We're continuing to compile more questions for listener questions. So we'll be getting another one of those episodes out here in a few. So if you have any of those, shoot them across to us. And our big thing is share the podcast with everybody. If you've got people that are interested in this, we continue to just make great connections with people that are our listeners and reaching out, and people have turned them onto the podcast because they're like, I'm talking about ICF, or thinking about ICF. Oh, you should listen to this podcast. And great things when I get the emails from people saying, hey, I just binge listened to all your episodes at one, so that's awesome. Continue to do that, because that's the only way we really grow. We don't advertise this. And like I said, we're not sponsored as of yet. We're not taking any money on this. We're just doing this kind of to get the word out. So really important to us that people get educated and learn about the process. And if there's anything that you think we're missing on, or any products we're missing on, please mention them to us, or mention them to those people and have them get hold of us. We're happy to keep putting out episodes to keep people learning. So,
all right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.